Hi, I'm Cynthia Schiller. Please like and subscribe. So, we're going to talk about, do narcissists die early, or do empathetic people die early? So, we're going to talk about the science behind the narcissist effort. So, usually, narcissism, that's because of childhood experiences, psychological trauma happens. And during this time, the narcissist relegated those traumatic events, and it becomes ingrained in their unconscious mind, things that they just can't face. But those become wounds. And because of those wounds inside this soul, or the mind, the narcissist is preventing themselves from fully developing their sense of self. So, because of this, they are dependent on others to build up their self esteem, and it can cause problems for their health in the long run. But how does that happen? A narcissist, just like us, and I want you to remember that we are going through chronic anxiety. Um, so, because of this personality disorder, NPD, the narcissist um, are often at higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease. So they have higher levels of stress hormones, such as cortisol, within their blood. So there is some evidence, and it can cause other problems. And it may very well be an earlier death. So if you have a narcissist in your life, it's something you might want to think about. Is causing us stress too. So, what's the possible risk factors as far as an earlier age for death, and especially for men, for the narcissistic men? So, the science behind this, the effects of narcissism. So, the narcissist becomes defensive, and with the pathological ones, the narcissists appear to have high opinions of themselves, um, and they can project their grandiose ideas while also processing very fragile beliefs about themselves. And it's very deep within them. Um, so they deep inside feel truly worthless. And it was a result of the psychological trauma that they went through as a child. And it's ingrained in them. And it's brought out by triggers. It's almost like opening a little door, to where they close it off, they try to hide it, they try to deny it's in there. But every now and then, when they get triggered, that door opens. We have traumas too that trigger us. That's why when we're in these relationships, the narcissist put a bunch of triggers into us and we react to them. So there was some research that was done at the University of Bern. They had a bunch of psychologists that were able to show that people who scored highly on this narcissism scale, where they experience feelings of worthlessness, whenever they feel a threat to their ego, to their sense of self, um, they saw a difference between people who didn't score when they had different self-esteem. So when we trigger a narcissist, they can have that narcissistic injury that they talk about, a threat to their projected sense of superiority. They end up using certain types of defensive strategies to cope with. They can use things like devaluation. Some of them might become aggressive, and they do this in order to cope with the stress that they're going through. So, stress can really play havoc on our immune system. So, it can cause them to favor certain people in their life who build up their self-esteem. That's why they use a lot of people. That's why they use flying monkeys. And they utilize caring friends and family the most. They're the most readily available, reliable. So the narcissist body is going to react when they're triggered. So when a body is triggered, it goes into a defensive state for various reasons. But it causes physiological responses. So these perceived threats, sometimes with a narcissist, they can be imagined. They're not always even true. Um, and like with us, we can have things trigger us that we don't know the truth. So some of our stuff is imagined because we don't know what the truth is. We trusted in the beginning, and now we're starting to not know. We're getting stressed about that. So when this happens, whether it's a true threat or a perceived threat, our brain treats it the same. So it will stimulate this fight or flight response, fight, flight, or this new thing where they added fawn. Oh, well, kind of like deer in the headlights. It's a reaction to adrenaline. And it's our brain telling us survival might be at stake. So the narcissist can go through that as well. So our brain has to protect us. So it doesn't have the time. It can't afford to distinguish, is this real or false? It just says we got to take care of it. So this physiological response will occur whether it's a perceived threat or an imagined threat. Our body doesn't want to risk it. So our brain puts out that adrenaline. And there is something called the sympathetic nervous system, and that's what our body responds by activating the sympathetic nervous system. And it's regulated by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or also known as HPA. So our fight or flight system, fight, flight, or fawn, helps us gear up to this threat, whether it's a physical threat, something that's making us uncomfortable or scaring us. So this HPA triggers the release of our stress hormones. We have cortisol, adrenaline, and when that's released, our heart starts to beat faster, the blood pressure starts to rise, and the eyes start to dilate. We talk about the black eyes of the narcissist. They can be so heightened, so scared that they react where their pupils really dilate, which means they open up. That's meant to let light in. We do that to make sure that we can see the best that we can see, utilize all the light in case there is a threat. The narcissist feels threatened to their sense of self. And when they get that enraged that they got to protect themselves, their eyes dilate. Ours will dilate too when we're scared, but also as a release, response to this release of these the cortisol and adrenaline, muscles start to tense. And a lot of studies have shown that these kind of defensive responses, when they occur chronically, they often are predictors of elevated blood pressure. So if you're going through this, you're at risk of higher blood pressure. So we got to take care of ourselves. A narcissist has been living with this since childhood, and it's intensifying. Every thing that goes wrong can cause extra triggers. So they have a lot of triggers. And because of the level of abuse, their triggers are pretty profound. So their responses are profound. Their responses are more in depth, higher. So they can also have increased cardiovascular reactivity to mental stress. So they're reacting to the mental stress at a higher level. They have overall poor outcomes when it comes to their cardiovascular, which is their heart health. So what is the relationship between the defensive strategies of the narcissist and narcissism? So we have defensive strategies related to narcissism and defensive strategies that go along with the physiological responses, the different consequences. So our narcissist will have a more highly reactive physiological system. So their stress is greater. They're not in a healthy state. So because of this, their adrenaline is overloading them, and their cortisol as well. But when we go through our trauma, it can last a long time. And I had a really hard time with it. You get your brain fog with CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and you get certain triggers. I couldn't listen to the radio. You hear a love song and it triggers me. Like, how dumb is that? But it's true, it does. There's certain things that trigger you. So don't feel it's dumb. But it's little things. I don't want to watch TV shows of people cuddling or kissing or, seeing people hold hands. It triggers you back to a memory. And the narcissists, they get triggered too. So we have to take care of our mental health, our cardiovascular health, relieve our stress. So we're stressing, are they going to come back? Or what, did I do something wrong? Or do I take accountability? We have to calm down. We have to refocus. We have to use mindfulness. We have to focus on something healthy instead of something unhealthy. We have to remove ourselves if it's not getting better. So can narcissists change? You see these self-aware narcissists, and I've been kind of watching them. They have good advice, but it's still, they still, like, the things they say, they're like, I still don't feel this way. They say they're self-aware and they have to take accountability. They're just going through the actions. A lot of them seem more popular than the empathetic ones. I think they're getting supply off of it. Like, yeah, I'll take accountability. Yeah, I guess I'll stay with my wife because it serves a purpose. It's great for the channel. Not that they like the supply, but the love isn't there. The best way to say is they can love their life, not necessarily their wife, is how I would put it. They're liking what they're getting. It's weird on how the connection doesn't form, and that's because their brain is damaged, but now they're damaging their body. So they can have long-term consequences. It can happen to us as well based on stress, but it does seem to follow a pattern where it affects the narcissist at a higher rate. There's psychological stress. Narcissists go through this chronically. They're always searching for something better. For a while, they seem to settle in with the love bombing. They think it's a good supply. And then they realize this isn't enough. It's not what I expected, or they start to see flaws. Once they see flaws, it's almost like buying a new car. Like, you're like, oh, you see a little ding on a new car and you're like, oh, do I want this? And then you're really looking like there better not be another one. Maybe one ding I'll accept, but they're going through things with a fine-tooth comb now because they expected their brand new shiny new supply to be brand new shiny new forever. And just like a car, they'll start to devalue it because over time, people age, they lose some of their looks. Most of us, some get better, but the narcissist sees it in a different way as devalue, and it's never going to get back to the bright shiny thing, because over time the narcissist is going to get to know the person better. We want to get to know the person, we accept their flaws, and we love them. It's different with a narcissist. So it can put the body into almost a constant state of stress when you're a narcissist. And it just has that increased HPA reactivity. So what kind of proof is out there? You know, there was a study that was conducted by experts at the University of Michigan, go blue, University of Virginia. And what they did is they studied the role of narcissism on the basal cortisol concentration levels, and they utilized the undergraduate population to study. So there was 106 students that were undergraduate. It had both males and females. And during this study, they were assessed using the Narcissistic Personality Inventory, and their basal cortisol levels were collected using samples of spit or saliva. So these researchers that were studying it found that in this basal cortisol, there was evidence that the HPA axis was chronically activated in males with pathological narcissism. So there is a difference between male and female for some reason. There are more male narcissists, but females are starting to increase as far as how many females are narcissistic. But the males that were suffering from this APA axis that was chronically activated would be at increased risk for these health problems that, such as the cardiovascular disease. They suffered depression, anxiety at a higher level, mental health problems, whether it's also obesity, eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia nervosa, anorexia nervosa. When you add the word nervosa, it's due to like the brain instead of like a reaction to starvation or medication that can cause you to lose weight. So sexual dysfunction because of stress that can lead to impotence, premature ejaculation, also lack of libido, which is known as sexual desire. There's also skin and hair problems. They can have hair loss. Stress will cause hair loss. Psoriasis, whether they have acne, eczema, just different skin problems. Their gut, gastrointestinal problems, ulcerative colitis. They might have irritable bowel, gastritis, acid reflux. So will these relate cause an early death? So based on the studies, they can't say for sure. They can't say for sure. And that's what gets so frustrating is we are searching for answers. We're doing all the research that we can. We're continuing to research. But there are predictors. There are patterns that we're seeing. And narcissists suffering from any of these conditions, they're at a higher risk of an early death. So all of these problems that result from chronic distress can lead to these serious conditions that will increase the risk of either suicide or death from disease, such as these conditions above. People who struggle with mental health are more likely to commit suicide. If you struggle with that, please call 988. One is the country code for America. There is help out there for suicide hotlines such as 988. So this is what's interesting is it doesn't matter. According to the study that was conducted by the Center of Health for Aging, Healthy Aging Research, which at Oregon State University. So chronic stress, major or minor, found that chronic stress can predict mortality. So this seemed to be true even when the researchers excluded health-related events as a cause of the stress. So sometimes our body reacts to the illness with stress. Let's say I had breast cancer. So our bodies are going under stress, but then our mind starts stressing, you know, do I get my affairs in order? Do I do this? What's the best plan of action? You know, we have to deal with our body image. We have to, how do I tell the family? Do I tell the family? Just all these, how am I going to handle getting to the appointments? Can I keep my job? Or how am I going to feel? So sometimes we react to a stress, or stress causes disease. So either way, it's stressful. So people who perceive that their lives are stressful on a daily basis, those are the people who really need to release some of the stress, find some coping mechanisms. Because if you're feeling stress due to life events such as divorce, death of a loved one, you know, we have to fight our battles. Don't sweat the small stuff, as they say. Not to get caught up in every little thing, because every little piece of stress that we can get rid of can help. Narcissists have a hard time controlling their triggers. They're not able to counterbalance their triggers with love. You know, like right now, if my dad died, you know, feeling the love could help console me. But the narcissist doesn't get consoled with love. They're gonna stay empty. It's not gonna fill them. You know, so let's say they turn to sex. It's not gonna fill them. It's an act. Just like the hug is an act. It's not a feeling, and they're striving to feel loved, adored, and that's their obsession. And you guys can relate to some of you how obsessions happen. We're in this trauma bond, and we just want to be loved enough for closure. We just want to be loved enough to understand. And some of you are just so fed up, but you were hurt because of the lack of love. So it's really interesting that there's some link missing. There's something that the narcissists do seem to have a greater risk, but it's mainly the male. And is a lot of narcissism is related to entitlement. And this is just something that goes through my mind, is based on the past. In the olden days, the men were entitled. They were allowed to be the head of household. They were allowed to be served by the wife. So it's kind of ingrained in a way, maybe expected that that's what they want. That's what's the perfect thing. Women are starting to become more empowered, trying to be equal. So the narcissist, quote unquote, was on top, where they had the control. And in my mind, it could be that they're fighting to keep that control. So their stress is higher because the females, in traditional sense, based on the olden days, the females are climbing. They're seeing progress as far as getting more power. The narcissist is losing power. So that's more stressful than getting a bonus, climbing up. The narcissist is going down if they're male. They're getting stressed over that, the equality things that are going on, is my guess. And also, you know, we're going through the LGBTQ stuff. So there's a lot going on with power struggles, who's entitled, how do we come together? Is it right? Is it wrong? A whole bunch of stuff. So they also think that women traditionally are more encouraged. It's more acceptable. You know, I'm heterosexual, but you see me walking down the street with holding a girl's hand. It's not looking as much as two guys. It's more socially acceptable. Still, uh, we're encouraged to express ourselves. We're not quite as squashed on developing relationships, male with a male or a female. Men, aren't able to do that like as much. So if a man holds a woman's hand, it's so weird. Depends on who's being judged. It's seen as okay for me to grab a man's hand, but not for a man to grab my hand. It's weird how it works. But who gets judged? It's not coming out the way I want it to, so scratch that. But so it's seen that people around narcissistic people are likely to experience more stress as well. So when you're in a healthy environment around healthy people, you're not as stressed. So it's important to take good care of ourselves. If we stay with a narcissist, will they change? They're stuck, and it's so hard to understand how they're stuck, but they are. And I'm a teacher at school, and I'm really studying the kids. It's a brand new year. This is how many days? For seventh day with the kids. You're starting to see reactions. There's stressors, the stubborn ones, the helpful ones, and you can kind of almost picture what their home life is like. But the narcissist is stuck in a developmental state where their brain didn't progress. There's different parts of our brain that deal with different things. And the part that deals with empathy isn't there. So they can be extremely intelligent. They're highly intelligent because they learn manipulation techniques. So how do we heal from these triggers that we all have? We have to learn exactly what triggers us so we can kind of diffuse our emotional reaction, which can sometimes be an overreaction. A lot of times when it's a trigger, it's an overreaction because it's so intense that we react with intensity. We have to understand why we're so emotional over whether the narcissist pushes our buttons, whether certain situations, and usually that's the thing is usually buttons don't get pushed in healthy relationships. If they do, you set your boundaries, you talk about it, you can agree to disagree, but there's respect. And narcissists during the devaluation stage, they take away that respect, and it's hard to build that back up. So we need to learn calm down strategies to help alleviate some of this stress. We also have to look within ourselves and realize, that we are good people, and use self-affirmation. Tell yourself every day 3 things that's good about you. You're a caring person. You like to share, even just things that you're proud of. I'm a good cook, or, I'm getting it together. I got up today. I'm proud of myself for that. I am worth waking up and taking a shower. Different things that we have to use self-affirmation instead of getting down. That we are loved, and when we feel that we're not loved, to reach out to somebody who does love us, not the wrong people. And we have to accept and learn to love ourselves. because when we love ourselves, people are drawn to that. It gives us a confidence, and confidence is sexy, and confidence is attractive, even in a non-sexual way. People are drawn to that, and it gives us our power back. So I hope that was helpful. Stress can be devastating on our lives. And the narcissist, you see their rages, uh, the throwing things, the yelling, that's more intense than a healthy person would react. And that's due to an extreme, a higher level of adrenaline. And it's a chronic state. You see the self-aware narcissist talking about how uncomfortable they are all the time. When we're going through our trauma bond rumination stuff, we're uncomfortable. We are in a heightened state of that fight or flight. So we have to calm down. We have to refocus. And the narcissists, they need to do that too. But they're into the quick fixes, that they react because it's so intense for them. Just like if you were stabbed, you're not gonna go, okay, I need to reflect, I need to think about this. Do I pull the knife out? Do I run away? No, that's an extreme adrenaline rush you're gonna get, and your body's gonna be like just in overdrive, just doing what it thinks it's just gonna react. Like when I told you guys I caught on fire. I blacked out, but I was running around. I don't remember it, but I was told I was running around on fire. They tackled me. I don't remember this, but my body went into, we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. You should stop, drop, and roll. But I didn't. Because your body reacts. Your body reacts. I was 5 years old. But they're in fight or flight. And if you notice that they will fight or they will leave, they don't have the reflection time. That's why it's black or white with them. That's why they can ghost so easily, because of that adrenaline keeps them in fight or flight. They're not in a healthy state. In a healthy state, you're like, how do I say this? What do I do? They're in fight or flight. That's the difference. And I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's a powerful statement. One-on-ones are available. Topic requests are always welcome, and I'll see you in the next video.